If your horse has chipped hooves and you want to know how to trim them, I'm going to show you how in this video. The first thing you want to do is check your balance. Obviously where that chip is, there's going to be a big divot, but you want to check for any other high or low spots. This spot is particularly high. So when you're trimming a horse without a chip, you want the whole thing to be even at the end. No high spots, no low spots. But when there's a big chip like this, when you trim, basically you just want to ignore it, because you're not going to make the whole hoof wall height the level of that divot, or that's going to be taking way too much off. The horse is going to be sore. So bring the rest of the hoof wall down to the height it should be at, which is just above the sole plane, and it will be more even with the chip than it was, before you trimmed. But it's still, the chip is still, there's going to be a dent there. You're going to be able to see it when you check your balance at the end of your trim, and that's okay because it will grow out. Checking my balance again partway through. I'm going to use my rasp for the rest of this. The story with this horse is that he had laminitis last spring and then had an abscess a few months later, and this chip is from the abscess growing out. Now what I'm going to do is do a Mustang roll, and this part is really important because it's going to stop it from chipping anymore. So I'm going to take where it's chipped and bevel it, so there's no sharp edges for it to easily chip more. And in this case there is a flare with the chip, which is really common. Horses that have flares tend to chip more. Now I bought this rasp because they were out of the usual one I get, which is the Bellotta Top Sharp. This is the Bellotta Razor, and I really don't like it. If you notice how it's catching when I'm rasping, the Top Sharp does not do that at all. So I don't recommend you get this rasp, but it was the only one they had. So now that the hoof is balanced and pretty much trimmed up, because this horse has a tendency to get run forward heels, I'm going to bring the toe back a little bit more than I normally would. Run forward heels is the same thing as an underrun heel, just two different terms for the same thing. See, this rasp is really not my favorite. I would not have bought it if I'd known it was going to do this. Now that I've got most everything trimmed up nice, check my balance. So it's all even when I'm looking down the hoof, except for right here, where, like I said, we can't bring the whole hoof down to the height of this chip. Now I'm going to bring the foot forward. Now that I've got this foot forward, I'm going to bring this flare in more and finish off my Mustang roll. I'm going to use the fine side of my rasp for this. So this is where I'm really going to make sure there's no jagged edges, so it's less likely to chip again or anymore. And it's the same technique if your horse has just a smaller chip. This is a pretty extreme situation. And honestly, I should have trimmed it sooner. I have a new baby. Life's pretty crazy, but we can always correct. If you have a horse that has a much smaller chip, you're gonna apply the same principles. Smooth it out, make sure there's no sharp edges, trim the rest of the foot as you should, not to the height of the crack or the height of the chip. So now that the hoof is pretty much done, I'm gonna check my balance one more time from the back. Make sure it's all even.